Welcome, everybody. Whoa, that is way close. I'm glad to see all of you here, and for those of you that are viewing us on Capital Community Media Channel 21, I'm glad you can join us. Welcome to the annual Mayor's State of the City Address. As you know, this meeting has been held typically every year during one of the Rotary meeting times, which is at noon, and it's been happening over 40 years. What you don't know is every Rotarian president is looking forward to this day because typically they can sit in the audience, actually eat their lunch, and not have to be behind the podium, unless it's your turn to co-host. But I really am honored to MC this event. In cooperation with the City of Salem and the Office of the Mayor, this event is co-hosted on a rotational basis each year by the Salem City Club, the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce, or the Rotary Club of Salem. So Tom Hofford, I know you're here. I have no idea where you are, but tag you're it for next year. But first, let's take my name is Jane Griggs, if I haven't met you. I'm the president of the Rotary Club of Salem and your host today. I'd like to take a moment and thank the Sprague High School String Quartet for their wonderful, beautiful background music. The quartet is coordinated by instructor Lisa Rael, and we're so fortunate not only to have this musical group of students with us, but the music programs that just abound across our school district. Members of the quartet have prepared a special piece for us today, so I will now turn it over to Chloe Ruzetsky, who will introduce other members of their quartet and tell you a little bit about the piece that they're going to perform.
Good afternoon. I'm Chloe, the first violin of the Sprague String Quartet. We're under the direction of Lisa Rael. This is Sage on second violin, Amy on viola, and Peyton on cello. We're going to be playing some selections from the finale of Edvard Grieg's String Quartet, composed in 1877. We're so honored to be able to play this for you today and represent Salem Kaiser's music program.
guys did a wonderful job. Another round of applause. I actually got 2 bites of my lunch in. I'm feeling very successful. Now I'd like to welcome up to the stage a longtime Rotarian and a friend, Renee Campbell, who will share some words of inspiration with us. That will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you wouldn't mind standing for both, that would be great. Renee, come on up.
Thank you, President Shane, distinguished leaders and guests. I share a poem from Tolkien's Fellowship of the Ring. All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken, a light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king. These words brought hope, inspiration, and courage to the diverse people groups of the imaginary world of Middle Earth. They're often referred to as the Riddle of Strider, the rightful king of Gondor, whose kingdom has been stolen, and his realm is under the influence of evil forces. I find that there is much in this poem that fits where we find ourselves today, trying to navigate, recover, restore, and rebuild from great disruption. We've been through a couple of years of deep tragedy for some. For others, inconvenience. We've been forced to pause and reconsider how we do all of those things that were second nature to us, how we work, visit with our family and friends, care for our sick, raise and educate our children, enjoy the refreshment of the arts, and how we interact with the people we live with, or how we live alone. And yet there were, and are, still big issues to deal with, new issues to deal with, some issues made worse by pandemic, wildfires, and political unrest. So we began to wander and explore how we could make good things happen. What makes us do that? Why didn't we just pause? Because we have purpose. There are civic leaders, business owners, educators, healthcare workers, humanitarian workers, artists, and others in this room with deep resilience, born of deep-rooted conviction that what we do matters. Recovery will not happen overnight. Our community needs us. People are counting on us. Wandering can be intentional looking, or it can be refreshing ambling that clears our minds and allows fresh perspective and ideas to percolate. We have done both, and we are so grateful for compassionate, creative, courageous leaders willing to share their time and experience to explore new ways to make life better. The line in the poem, "The crownless again shall be king," is a stretch in my analogy of current events, but to me it speaks to the hope of those that may still be feeling isolated, overworked, underappreciated, or struggling financially. The hope that they will be restored to full fellowship with family and friends and vocation. So here's the prayer part. It is that we will uphold and encourage one another and not grow weary as we commit to continued intentional wandering. There are flames to fan, roots to water, light to shine in the shadows, and gold to find as we work together to fully restore our community. I am honored to be part of you. Thank you. and amen.
Thank you, Renee. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Always good to say that in a Rotary meeting, too. Mayor Bennett will be introducing Salem City Councilors in a moment, but before that, I would like to take a few seconds to recognize some other elected officials that I believe are with us today. Members of the Grand Ronde, Denise Harvey and Chris Mercier, would you please stand? And I apologize if I didn't. I know you're out here. There you go. City of Kaiser, Mayor Kathy Clark. If you are here, I believe you are coming. Marion, I know these three are here. Marion County Commissioners Danielle Bethel, Kevin Cameron, and Colm Willis. If you stand. Marion County District Attorney Paige Clarkson. Polk County Commissioners Lyle Mordhurst and Jeremy Gordon, and this is Lyle's second appearance today. Welcome. And last but not least is former Mayor Anna Peterson. If I've missed anybody, would you please stand up and I will recognize you, but oh, yes, welcome. I can't see that far. Oh, nice to thank you for joining us. Anybody else? Okay. And I'd also like to introduce representatives of our partner organizations. Tom Hoffert for the Chamber. Tom. You know, Tom always says, he's so gracious about introducing people. He always says, they're the best in class, best in class. And Tom really is the best in class of the Chamber. He is, we should be proud that he's representing our small businesses in our community. So hats off to you, Tom. Also, the City Club of Salem, Ron Ekus. I'm not sure if Ron is here, but if you are, we'll clap for you, regardless. And now it's my privilege and honor to introduce our mayor, Chuck Bennett, to deliver his 6th State of the Union, State of the City address. Could be the State of the Union. You could probably do that, too. The mayor and I share a couple of things in common. Right. We both love Cincinnati chili. It's a great culinary dish I discovered when I was a college student in Ohio. And luckily for Mayor Bennett, he and his wife Sherry will have ample opportunities to sample that lovely meal in a little while. But first, here's the official script about Mayor Bennett. Salem Mayor Chuck Bennett took office January 4th, 2017, and he's serving his 3rd term as mayor. That, in addition to his 9 years on city council and numerous city council committees, has resulted in, for Salem, street improvements, sidewalk replacement programs, bolstered public safety funding, and other livability initiatives that were brought to light by the mayor. Mayor Bennett is also a former state representative, I'm really sorry about that, and a graduate of Willamette University. He and his wife, Sherry, have 1 daughter, 2 granddaughters, and live in Northeast Salem, at least for now. Professionally, Mayor Bennett was a very well-respected government affairs representative for public school leaders for over 18 years. I thought you would like that. And he owned his own government affairs business. I think that's all fancy terms for lobbyist, but it is. Yeah, that's what I thought. He also worked as a newspaper reporter and an editor in the 1970s and 80s. And in his tenure as a volunteer with the City of Salem, Mayor Bennett has served as president of City Council, chaired several City Council committees. He's served on the Salem Public Library Board, the Cultural and Tourism Promotion Advisory Board, the Budget Committee, and of course the best one is Planning Commission, since that's the one I'm on. And he's currently president of the Capital Planning Commission, so he's a busy man. Also a former board member of Pentacle Theater and the Oregon Council for the Humanities. So now, please join me in welcoming Mayor Bennett to the podium.
I'm just going to take a moment. It's such a, this is something I hope I don't forget over time as I grow older. You think back to these various things you hear about people remembering the various parts of their service, and this will be a highlight for me, so I appreciate you all being here today. I want to thank the Sprague String Quartet for the beautiful music they shared with us. And Renee, thank you so much for your words. They really were inspiring, and certainly from one of my favorite set of books, so thank you very much. And Shane, for the just bringing up Cincinnati chili made my day. I don't know if any of you have ever seen Cincinnati chili. If you haven't, you can go to my Facebook page. I have piles of this stuff in front of me, but it is spaghetti, beans, onions, a mole chili with about a pound of finely grated cheese on top and a really excellent hot sauce. It's just something you can't imagine until you've had it. My wife has had it, and she can't imagine why I'm having it. So I think it's just the best stuff. And I'm a Skyline, not a Gold Star guy, okay? There is a whole culture back there in Ohio. Obviously, the Bengals, just stop for a moment. You have to say this slowly when you're in the Cincinnati. The Bengals are going to be in the Super Bowl. It's the kind of thing that people dream about all their lives. My son-in-law is a huge Bengals fan. I've been to several of their games over the years, and he assured me this would never happen in his lifetime. So he's a very, very excited guy. Well, I really want to welcome you to my sixth and final State of the City report to the community. I first want to, of course, thank the Chamber of Commerce, the City Club, and especially the Rotary Club this year, and President Chang Griggs for my introduction and for sponsoring this event each year. Thank you all also for joining me here at the Salem Convention Center. I also want to recognize city leadership that's here, particularly Councilor Jose Gonzalez. Jose, stand up, my friend. And is Jim Lewis or Virginia Stapleton here? Just thought I'd look around and see. Okay. Well, trust me, as mayor, you're excited to have just one city councilor show up at anything you're doing that's beyond, particularly with this council. I want to also introduce city department heads that are here. City Attorney Dan Atchison, Employee, Enterprise, and Technology Director Krishna Namburi. It tells you a lot about how the thing is being set up when you hear it that way. I'm really excited about that. Fire Chief Mike Niblock, Police Chief Trevor Womack, Public Works Director Peter Fernandez, and Urban Development Director and soon-to-be Acting City Manager Kristen Rutherford. And my partner as a short timer here, my short time's 11 months, his is like 11 days. He's Steve Powers, our really esteemed city manager. I've got to tell you what an outstanding leader he's been in this community and for us on the city council. I'm very excited. I had the opportunity, he's moving to Marquette, Michigan. It's in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, right on Lake Superior. So you hear as you watch the news, the national news, and they say there's a lake effect on Lake Superior, it's coming in his front door. The air literally freezes. It's the darndest thing, but Mr. Powers. And I discovered what a Youper is. It's an Upper Peninsula. It's kind of like my experience living for several years up in Gates. We saw ourselves as kind of culls from the valley living up the canyon. And that's kind of what a Youper is like. A Youper, not a Yupper, it's a Youper. It's a very interesting point of view. Overall, I want to report to you that the state of the city is good. Our economy is booming. Our tax base is growing. We have essentially full employment. In fact, we are almost beyond full employment. We're finding small businesses are having trouble finding employees here. Projects we outlined last year are either underway or completed. And, for good or ill, the legislature is in session today. We also face some serious challenges as a city and as a community. Homelessness remains the overriding issue troubling our community. It is as it really is in nearly every city in Oregon and nationally. Each year, we ask residents which issues concern them most, and for the past several years, homelessness has topped the list by far. Salem is Oregon's second largest city at nearly 178,000 residents. That growth has not been supported with investments in our public safety services. Police and fire. Salem continues to be well understaffed in both police and fire, and the results are noticeable equipment needs, and they are critical. Salem's economy is strong and getting stronger as a result of both public and private investment. Demand on our city basic infrastructure, water, sewer, streets, bridges, sidewalks, bikeways grows with our population. And the central role with our population, as well as the central role we play here in the Willamette Valley and its economy. In response to the challenges growth poses, the city has launched and nearly completed its comprehensive plan update that will set the land use framework for the next 20 years. The process has engaged hundreds of residents and organizations and will likely be adopted sometime this year after more public review and council action. I'd like to go into detail on a number of these and other issues to provide you with up-to-date information and a closer look at the variety of city-led initiatives. No issue, zero issue, rises to the level of public concern in Salem as does homelessness and its human and community impacts. The city's approach is aimed at managing our public spaces to standards that are safe and hygienic for all our residents, including the unhoused. At the same time, we've led the effort to coordinate our response to the social, medical, and economic issues associated with homelessness. Coordinating this effort are our regional partners organized as the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance. The city works closely through the Salem Housing Authority and with a whole range of nonprofit organizations addressing this problem. I'm especially grateful to Union Gospel Mission, Church at the Park, Northwest Human Services, and especially the Willamette Valley Community Action Agency for their cooperative participation and leadership in this effort. Our focus this year will be to have everyone living in safe, appropriate housing. Not on our streets, not on our sidewalks, and especially not in our parks. We're on a 3-step plan to get there. I'm going to give you the bad news first. We won't make it, okay? I just want you to understand. We're going to do everything we can to make it happen. We won't make it. But we're going to be adding more beds available to women who make up almost half of our homeless population. Second, we're adding more to our rapid response services. We need dedicated resources to more quickly respond to illegal camps before they really begin to grow. And third, we're opening the Navigation Center, the city's low barrier center that helps people coming in off the streets to stabilize and take the next steps toward exiting that situation they're in. And I'll tell you, the huge reason that's happening is the relationship we've developed with the state of Oregon and its legislature and Marion County, that we've really, I think, developed a truly unprecedented relationship, at least in my experience with Marion County, that last week pledged $3 million to assist us getting the Navigation Center going. So, commissioners, again, thank you so much. This is a regional challenge. It will require meeting our homeless residents where they are and providing the appropriate services. This is not one-size-fits-all situation. Yes, some need more accountability for their behaviors, and we must engage them, not enable them. Some need to access what has become a diminished inpatient mental health system. Many need more accessible, effective chemical dependency solutions, and others just need short-term, affordable housing units until they can get back on their feet. All of this takes time. We know that addiction and mental health crises are growing situations in our society. Despite our investments, the foreclosure and eviction numbers suggest we will see an increase in people who are economically unsheltered. I want to offer a huge thank you to my friend Hazel Patton and her team. They're doing amazing work and have generated contributions for 127 micro shelter units at over $5,000 apiece. You do the math. I forgot to. The shelters are being organized by the city and Church at the Park into small villages in various parts of the city. This managed, secure, and safe shelter program has already seen 37% of those individuals. We have part of this is going, particularly out on Portland Road. 37% of those individuals served exit to a positive destination, and the site serving families, which is a second site in cooperation with Catholic Community Services, this is families with children, is seeing an impressive 72% exiting homelessness to get to more permanent housing. These are very successful programs. So when someone says housing first is the wrong answer, change the channel, okay? It really does work if you couple it with the kind of programs we're finding available through the county, through the various nonprofit organizations we work with. Last week, we broke ground at Aquina Hall. That's the old nurses' quarters on the north campus of the State Hospital. It will consist of 51 one-bedroom units and studio apartment. It will include permanent supportive housing and units with rents based on incomes that are 60% or less of median income. South Fair Apartments is an existing Salem Housing Authority property being renovated to include 2 new one-bedroom units, bringing the total units in the project to 42. The remaining units are 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments. Again, any units rented will be to those with less than 50% of median income. I'm particularly proud of the housing rental assistance program I proposed in my first State of the City address 5 years ago. Years and years ago. We have reached an all-time high retention rate of 89%, and since the inception of the program, we have housed 370 homeless people. Its success has been the result of close collaboration with Arches, Salem Police Department, Be Bold Ministries, and Church at the Park. Substantial financial support has come from the Oregon State Legislature and state housing programs for these projects and others, and as I mentioned, also Marion County. It's like the creation of the Arches Inn on Hawthorne at the old Super 8 Motel. That structure will now house, as it develops, over 150 homeless individuals. Thank you so much to the Community Action Agency. And it just all along the way, they're there for that population and so many others. It's a remarkable organization, and its leader, Jimmy Jones, is one of our extraordinary leaders in this community. At the same time, the city is proposing a rapid response team that will quickly respond with police and public works staff to clear and clean up illegal camping sites around the city. This is something we desperately need. Those of you who are affected in your neighborhood or the park you care about, see this. You tell me about it anyway. That's a big chunk of my email, besides Clark's shoes, and I forget what the other one was that seems to show up every morning. Along with I've about had it with those people in the park and the garbage. We need to have a rapid response team that can move in quickly and stop illegal camping right away and get people programs they need to get to. I see, where did I see him? Corey Poole, did I see? Yeah, I saw Corey Poole. Corey Poole keeps me informed on Cascade Gateway Park, rightly so. We're seeing a whole chunk of our community out at Paradise Island, out at the Elks Club, out at the Walmart on Turner Road, really being desperately affected by illegal camping. We clean it up, they move back in. We need to stay on top of these. So, Corey, we'll keep working on it, man. We're going to keep working. Will you keep telling us? We'll keep working on it. The reality is, dealing with the illegal camping, I mentioned the police. As I begin this discussion of public safety in Salem, I first want to focus on the police department. I want to call out our police chief, Trevor Womack, and cite the tremendous job he and his department are doing to keep this community safe, and doing that with a staff that has epitomized the doing more with less category. The reality is that our city's policing needs are increasing as the city has grown beyond small town problems toward a big city where crimes are time and staff sensitive and far more complex. Crimes here include crimes against persons, homicide, gun violence, and general increase in other serious crimes. For example, in 2021, we saw a 25% increase in confirmed shots fired calls handled by the patrol force and 220 cases investigated by the Special Victims Unit detectives. And sadly, 83% of those cases involve children. There is much broader impact on our residents from the officer shortage as police are pulled away from dealing with far more common crimes of stolen vehicles, burglaries, and theft in order to address these more serious crimes. A recent independent study called out our police department's staff shortage. It's clear that we need to add at least 60 new officers to our force to meet the demands of a city of nearly 178,000 people. Without this kind of investment, time for our officers to do proactive, self-initiated work in the field, including neighborhood-based problem solving and community engagement, just won't exist. For example, the department doesn't have sufficient officers to focus on priorities like traffic and pedestrian safety. In 2021, the Salem Police Traffic Team, comprised of 7 officers on motorcycles, were dedicated to traffic enforcement in the city. The team investigated 28 significant crashes, in which 54% resulted in fatalities, and the remaining resulted in injury as a result of speed and DUI, and drunk driving played a major role. That is one of the council's top priorities, and we only have 7 people dedicated. Let me just give you an example in my neighborhood. I live in Northeast Salem. The council, I think, feeling really proud of themselves, lowered the speed limit to 25 miles an hour on 17th Street from Mission out past the State Fairgrounds to Silverton Road. 25 miles an hour, it was 35. Problem was, people were going faster than 35. You know what's happened with 25 miles an hour when you don't have officers to enforce it or a way to enforce it? It's still 45. And that's the way it is all around town. We need to have a substantial increase in our traffic patrols. In 2021, the patrol division, another section of our department, had 114,472 calls for service. Only 23% of those were officer initiated, sort of the officer sees something happening, calls in, says, I need some help over here. The rest of it is us calling in for help. The average call time for priority 1 and 2 calls is about 6 3/4 minutes. There are calls for service now that are just going unanswered. That's just, and I'm, again, I guess now second to homelessness, I'm starting to get I called the police about someone kicking in my front door and coming in and stealing stuff, and I'm having trouble getting someone out here to check it out. The car clouts alone eat up enormous amount of time for insurance adjusters, because that's really how you're going to deal, in many cases in this community, with car clouts. I also want to quote from the chief's statement in his just-released strategic plan. Quote, we are now guided by a refreshed set of mission, vision, and value statements as we pursue 3 overarching strategic priorities: safety, legitimacy, and excellence. Safety includes a focus upon both community and employee well-being. Legitimacy reflects our efforts to ensure our community views their police department as competent, capable, effective, and trustworthy. Excellence ensures that we are continually learning and improving as individuals, and as an organization, the success of each priority is driven by specific objectives, strategies, and metrics. Together, these priorities support our mission, set a clear path to achieving our vision, and reflect our core values. We are on the cusp of a new era in policing, and your police department is committed to remaining at the forefront of innovation and change. With a chief with that attitude, we owe him the staffing level that allows him to achieve it. I really feel quite strongly. Our strategic plan provides the lens through which we make decisions, influencing policy, practice, training, and culture. I am confident that we are headed in the right direction and excited to continue building upon the Salem Police Department's legacy of success. Chief, we're with you. We are with you. This community needs to encourage their council to step up and back you up. And I hope we can talk about it this year during the budget cycle. I'll look forward to that discussion. I want to shift now to the fire department. 2021 has been the busiest year in the Salem Fire Department's 160-year history. Call volume growth increased by double digits, and for the third year in a row, it was a 16.9% increase, 30,232 calls for service to our fire department. It's both the percentage of increase and the number of calls are historic highs for our fire department as an organization. Salem's population has risen 13.5% since 2010, and the call volume for the fire department over the same period has exploded by 80%. And that increase is being handled with no new resources to keep up with the increase in population or calls. The City Council has mandated a response goal of delivering emergency services within 5.5 minutes, 85% of the time. Last year, the department was only able to meet that 85% standard 61.6% of the time. That translates to over 5,126 people in 2021 experiencing a critical life-threatening emergency, and they had to wait longer than 5.5 minutes for emergency responders to arrive. If that emergency is a heart attack, the window for service to save your life, and I'm 73, so I start taking this stuff pretty seriously, becomes absolutely critical at 6 minutes. So given the situation, I've got about a half a minute and hope I've got the call in and the call went to the right group of guys and the right group of guys can get to my house to start beating on my chest or whatever it is those 9 guys do when they show up. Put very simply, we need more firefighter EMTs to keep up with the increasing demands for service. This is a core service that is not only going to get more important as our population continues to age. The fire chief has sounded the alarm that Salem is rapidly falling behind in its obligation to meet these safety standards for emergency health and fire response times, and with the reliable equipment to meet the needs they face. I strongly urge the Council and Budget Committee to develop a plan to reverse this dangerous trend with a 5-year reinvestment plan in our emergency services, including a bond measure to replace our seriously aging response equipment. Council also needs to develop a plan to meet our staffing needs in this critical area, to meet our council-adopted response times. The city is going to need to add 2 new fire stations with 24/7 staff over the next couple of years, just to have people in the right places to get to your house if there's a fire or you have that heart attack. This is 10 new engine companies and 111 new firefighters. That's how far behind we are to meet the City Council's goal. This isn't Niblock making this stuff up. This is what the City Council says they want. It's what the residents want. They'd like to live through their time here in Salem. I got 11 months left. Give me a break, you know. Problem is, the ongoing operating cost of that is $25 million. That's where the community has to stand up and say, I want it or I don't want it. I'll take my chances. Let old Chuck get out of here as fast as he can, see if he'll make it. There also is good news in emergency services. The concerted effort of our fire department community training efforts, particularly in our schools, has resulted in over 47% of the time during a sudden cardiac arrest in Salem, a bystander will perform CPR, and 30% of the time they will use a publicly accessible AED, a defibrillator, to shock the victim, tripling their chance for survival. Our overall Salem area save rate was 60%, which is phenomenal compared to the national average of 20.5%. The increase in AEDs in Salem and Kaiser includes the decision to place them in all Salem and Kaiser police vehicles and hundreds of local businesses. All of this is the result of work done by our Fire Foundation. More than 3,500 eighth graders each year are trained by the foundation in CPR and AED use. It's good. There is good news in all of this. Perhaps the best news, though, and the one I most like sharing, is that despite the headwinds we face from a national economy, COVID pandemic, the supply chain interruptions, our local economy has been robust and rapidly expanding. The most visible demonstration of Salem's economic vibrancy has been in our downtown, which is undergoing the first major renovation in 50 years. I know because I was here for the first renovation as a newspaper reporter and got to see it. City urban renewal strategy has continued to be a major factor in encouraging the dynamic private investment we've seen. Investments underway in downtown totaling $90 million will shape its future, attracting additional downtown residents and overnight guests. And here's an overview of the activities. I often get well, what are you guys doing about this economy? $38 million investment in construction of a new 7-story, 129-room Hilton Tapestry Hotel at the site of the former Marion Street Garage. It's just across the street from here. The former Nordstrom's building is slated for demolition and replacement by a 5-story mixed-use building with approximately 162 apartment units and small retail businesses. It's estimated now to be $25 million investment in downtown and expected to be completed in the spring of 2023. The JCPenney department store was recently sold to a Portland buyer who plans to redevelop the space for retailers needing 5,000 to 10,000 square feet. In the past year, we saw completion of the 990 Broadway building and a mixed-use project that includes 23 rental units and ground floor commercial space on Broadway. The 148-unit Coase apartment building on the site of the former McMahon's furniture store has been built and leased. Most of these have been leased. They're getting leased in advance of being built. It's really quite remarkable, the excitement about Salem's downtown and our general economy. Union Gospel Mission's new facility was completed in July across from the new police station on Commercial Street. The city's urban renewal agency purchased the 13 lots, including the former UGM building and adjoining properties, including the former Saffron's building, and plans to prepare it for demolition this spring. We'll be seeking development interest in the block, and from what I understand, what we're going to do is just have a lot of people expressing a lot of interest in this particular location. Western Oregon University, who's been, and Anna will remember this, has been looking at coming to downtown Salem for a couple of decades, made it. They bought the Vic building, which is not too far, kind of down the street from here. They have completed a batch of improvements. They have in-person classes underway, and they feature 2-degree programs in liberal studies and organizational leadership. That's just a quick overview of what's happening downtown. I'm not even going to list for you all the new businesses that have arrived. And what they're doing is replacing businesses who have left that were affected, in many cases, by COVID. The Urban Renewal Agency has also maintained a vigorous program for existing businesses facing impact from COVID regulations and other needed assistance. There are grant and loan programs in 3 of the urban renewal areas, including North Gateway, West Salem, and downtown. Since July, the city has approved $1.5 million in grants for projects totaling over $3.6 million in the Riverfront Downtown, West Salem, and North Gateway project areas. An additional strategic grant program in North Gateway area was recently approved to provide funds for projects specifically aimed at building and property safety and security. Industrial activity remains very strong on the West Coast, including Salem. This city's Mill Creek Corporate Center and Salem Business Campus remains very active with new and prospective projects being developed. The remaining 19 acres are under contract for purchase. Pacific Northwest Properties has nearly completed construction on a 70,000 square foot building for speculative commercial development in the nearby Fairview Industrial Park, and intends to have 12 new tenants in the 2 buildings it has. In addition, there are multiple programs available to small businesses and nonprofits affected by COVID. City Council recently approved the City of Salem Economic Development Strategy and COVID-19 Recovery Plan. The plan is the first one the city has developed since 2011, when the city population was about 155,000 people. It's designed to guide the department's activities as we recover from COVID containment policies, generally set by state and federal governments. Along with COVID recovery, it will increase community access to services and foster higher quality engagement with underserved businesses. The plan looks across all economic sectors, accounts for changing rules, regulations, and types of past and current assistance programs, and will help guide the future development and policies set by Council and the Urban Renewal Agency. Key areas include COVID response, diversity, equity and inclusion, affordable housing, employment land, broadband internet, entrepreneurship, workforce development, recruitment, and promoting Salem. And as the city works in each of these areas, it will involve substantial community input. The city saw a stall this past year in multifamily housing construction. It was in the first couple of months, though there were permits issued for 4 apartment complexes with more than 514 apartments. Part of the reason you see these kinds, and I'll go through some other ones that have come up, but we have a 2.5% vacancy rate in our multifamily housing area. And for those of you who follow those numbers, what that means is if a toilet's being changed in an apartment, it's not available. But second it gets taken, but then the next one's getting its toilet replaced, the next one's getting its stove replaced, and the next one's, that's about what's involved in a 2.5% vacancy rate. That does not mean you have housing for 2.5% of the people who are looking for it and can't find it. So it's one of those situations that we've really been talking a great deal about, trying to make sure we meet those kinds of housing needs. The city issued 453 single-family and duplex permits, 396 for multifamily projects, 19 for accessory dwelling units, and 92 for commercial projects. In total, our permitting department issued permits for 959 projects with a value of $585 million. There is a lot going on in this town. As I mentioned, a great deal of housing activity is focused on large projects in the downtown area. Several hundred units of single-family housing has been built on the north campus of the old state hospital grounds, and those are going to be up in the next several months. Those will be available. Housing continues, though, to be a major policy issue facing the city and is part of the huge update of the city's comprehensive plan called Our Salem. It's the city's vision for growth and development over the next 10 years. I really recommend all of you take a look at it and the 2 maps that go with it, which deal with the zone code and the zoning map, particularly if you're interested in how your section of town is developing. The comprehensive will be updates to the I mentioned the zoning map and codes. It's designed to help us meet the challenges ahead. This year, the city is implementing a new state law. It allows duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, and other types of what are being termed middle housing to be built in single-family neighborhoods. It's going to be a dramatic change as single-family neighborhoods develop or as we see redevelopment in single-family neighborhoods. And you look next door at that lot and all of a sudden it's a quadplex or a triplex in your neighborhood. So this is the kind of thing that is being brought forward to deal with when I describe a 2.5% vacancy rate. This is the kind of thing that's being brought forward at the state level to begin resolving this. This has been a red letter year for our Public Works Department here in Salem, hasn't it, Peter? It's just, yeah, it's been something else. It began almost exactly 1 year ago on Valentine's Day when a historic ice storm, you remember that? I just wanted to bring it back. It's still being cleaned up, so it kind of keeps coming back around to the city. The storm created the most tree damage since Columbus Day 1964. Those of you who weren't here, that was the Columbus Day storm. That's when the whole place blew down. Much of the city was without power for several days, and in the case of the Bennett House, for a couple of weeks. The city crews and contractors removed over 18,000 tons of trees and woody debris during the first 45 days of cleanup, and after a month of operation, more than 31,000 cubic yards of woody debris was received from residents and transported to Browns Island dump site for chipping and recycling. The city contractors are still at work on storm-related damage. It will have cost $6.75 million. 2.5 was covered by insurance. Well, that's not too bad. Allstate, whose good hands got wrapped around you? I got caught in the fires up the canyon, so I've become very familiar with insurance adjusters. And $3.2 million from FEMA. I got to know FEMA too. Good experience, huh? Yeah, good, okay. At the same time, the department had a banner year of activities, including the Ironman 70.3 event that used the Public Works managed parks and streets and drew more than 7,000 participants. It's a town with an economic impact of $10 million. Travel Salem hosted this and has told us they'll be back again this next year. They had a great time here in Salem. The park section also opened the Jerry Frank Salem Rotary Amphitheater. Congratulations to Rotary. This was just a remarkable addition to Riverfront Park. It was a 4-year project for the city and Rotary, and is a multi-million-dollar investment in our community on 4 acres of undeveloped parkland. It includes additional parking, walkways, a vendor plaza, electrical power, lighting. It was designed by Salem-based CB2 architects and built by the local construction firm, Dalkey Construction. And those past 2 things I talked about, Mark Bechtel, who runs our parks, dealt with that, as well as being in charge of the cleanup. So I want to call out Mark, one of our just outstanding Public Works employees. The new Frank Malden ozone water treatment system. Those of you who don't remember Frank, he was the Public Works director who hired Peter Fernandez. And was a tremendous advocate for the city's water system. Well, it was completed out of the Guerin Island facility. It will successfully guarantee water quality coming from the North Sandiam River for decades to come. The city and state have invested over $45 million in the project that grew out of the algal toxins that occurred several years ago and interrupted the city's drinking water supply for a couple of weeks. But it highlighted the city water system vulnerability. An additional $12 million of improvement in the city's aquifer storage system occurred out at Woodmansee Park, where we have underground facilities storing more than 700 million gallons of drinking water that's stored for emergencies or for peak summer water demands or other emergencies. The Public Works Department went to work on the pedestrian Safer Crossings program. They asked the public, where would you like to have safer crossings, pedestrian crossings? They got 132 suggestions. Now, I feel really good because the one I made 10 years ago got done this year at 13th and Marion Street, so the kids from North High going to Safeway or McDonald's won't be run down, and I'm thank you. It's been very exciting to watch that go in. They still haven't finished my two-way of State Street yet, though. We're only, how far did we get, Peter, this year? To High, didn't we? It's been, that's another about 15-year project that I think we picked up 4 or 5 blocks. I'm feeling pretty good about my success rate with the city on some of this stuff. But we're going to be looking at them again on the budget and the 5-year capital improvement plan to make sure we continue that program. The new Public Works Operations Program, which is a spectacular new building that is going to be built out by the existing city shop, sort of between 23rd and 25th, 22nd and 25th, in that area, kind of over by Popeyes, if you use the reference points that I use off Mission Street, is just going to be spectacular. We had a groundbreaking about a week or so ago. There are a couple things about it. There's locally sourced mass timber framing from Ferreira's Lumber Company. Instead of steel or concrete holding it up, it's going to be it's going to be timber put together to be as strong as steel. It's a really remarkable product. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. It's a badly needed building. As we've seen over the past several years, it will be our emergency center. It will keep the department's vital programs going during earthquakes and fires and floods and drinking water emergencies or whatever else we run into. It's a very badly needed center. Where they are now, they'd have been at the top of City Hall, most of them. So when it sandwiches in the earthquake, they would have, unless they had their skateboards, they'd really have a heck of a time getting out of there. The cops got out. They were at the bottom of the sandwich. The manager and I sit in the middle on the second floor. So that's going to come up again this year, too, I think. Public Works also includes Center 50 Plus. Did I mention I'm 73? So this City Senior Center is near and dear to my heart, and I believe it plays a huge role in our city being an age-friendly community that allows people to stay in place for their entire life. I really am proud of the work that Marilyn Daly does out there. And I'm going to kind of close with this a little bit because I think it's so positive, what they've done. During the pandemic, they delivered over 8,000 food boxes. 1,200 seniors a month got a call or a personal letter from someone at the volunteer at 50 Plus. 300 seniors a month received services through the Wellness on Wheels program. 400 seniors received Fit and Fun packets. I don't know what that is, but it sounds kind of fun. There are 60 lifelong learning classes being offered virtually. 30 are in person. They're ahead of a lot of us. They're ahead of our schools in some cases. 1,000 seniors living in community care settings receive monthly letters, weekly phone calls, and window parade visits. And of course, they had socially distanced visits from service dogs. You don't want to get those dogs too close to them old people during it. I'm not sure why that would. 125 seniors receive daily or weekly reassurance calls. Yeah, I've been telling my daughter I want one of those. Reassure me everything's okay. And 200 You Are Loved signs were placed in the yards of seniors in this community. I think that's the kind of thing that just makes Salem such a cool place to live. I think those kinds of services, that's a city service. You get the picture. You understand now why programs like this have been such an important part of our city. I tell you what, I can go on for an hour. I can go on more. This really can go on, telling you about the new YMCA, that proposed, my friends from the Grand Ronde are here, note I'm just saying it, the proposed casino in North Salem. The new YMCA is being built downtown. Our library has fantastic programs for every member of the family. The new Boys and Girls Club is going up out on Lancaster. The inspirational work being done with refugees from around the world is going on. Let me just say, and then I penciled in a couple of others. I really am inspired by the tremendous work with families being done by St. Francis Housing and by Grace at the Well, dealing with homeless, chemically or alcohol-dependent women. And I think that it's just one of those situations where there is so much good in this community. There are so many good people in this community that I think it's time to perhaps close as mayor with a pitch and an ask. I really got to throw it in. I can't just walk away without kind of jabbing you to feel responsible here. Over the next several months, the city's going to be completing its work on a proposed $300 million bond measure. It's designed to meet the many needs I talked about today, and it does it without raising your tax rate. No, really, it doesn't raise your tax rate. I promise, because the manager told me so, and I believe him. Did I mention he's going to be a Youper? Trust me, Youpers don't lie on this stuff. We're going to be reinvesting in some of our public infrastructure. We will be focused on our fire department, our streets, sidewalks, and bridges, affordable housing, and reinvesting in a variety of infrastructure issues that really need to be dealt with. We're going to continue to grow. And if we're going to continue to meet the safety needs of our residents, and we must, if we're going to continue to be the most livable city in Oregon, and I hope you all agree with me, we are, I hope you'll look closely at this. Share your thoughts with us. $300 million too much? There isn't enough there? I want it spent this way or that way? Tell us. We are ready to put together, I think as a council, to put together a program that meets our needs and meets the desires of the residents of Salem, and we're going to give you a chance. This is where it gets really good. We're going to let you vote on it in November. So it's coming right up. So I'd ask that you take advantage of this to really look at it as an opportunity to join us in this work. I really want to thank you again. I really do, for being here today. And thank you again for the 15 years I've had to be a city councilor and mayor during what to me has been the most exciting and challenging time in our city's history. I hope each of you look at public service with the city of Salem as an opportunity to experience a genuine pleasure and life experience. It has been for me. I can remember I was a City Hall reporter for the old Capitol Journal, and this right here, what I'm doing right now, is what I wanted to do, and I'm so thrilled that I got to do it. So thank you for joining me in this life memory today.
Thank you, Mayor Bennett. I think I echo the words of everybody in the audience that our city is truly a better community because of your leadership. So we will miss you. I also, in closing, my favorite two words in closing, would like to thank the following partners. They all deserve our appreciation. City staff, especially Linda Rose, for help in today's events. Allied Video for recording. Capital Community Media for airing live on Comcast Channel 21 and live streaming on YouTube. And the Salem Convention Center for hosting. They always do an amazing job. And speaking on behalf of our partners, the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce, the Salem City Club, and the Rotary Club of Salem, we're glad you joined us today, and we're adjourned.